Thea took a deep breath. Her tone softened. James, I know it was you who treated my injuries. Since we are married, I am your wife. I'll never betray you. But, what about you? You didn't trust me and even followed me here. Did you take me for a vain woman who'd divorce you and marry Mr. Caden just because he's rich? Thea, I didn't follow you here. I'm speaking the truth. Sigh. How am I supposed to explain this to you? James was helpless. Thea lightly waved and interrupted him. Fine, I can understand why you followed me. After all, Mr. Caden was the one who sent the betrothal gifts. Your worries are valid. Go home for now. I'll have a look at Pacific Group. Thea, at that moment, the glamorous-looking Quincy, who wore a red dress, approached them. From afar, she saw Thea speaking to an ordinary-looking man. Ignoring James, she pulled Thea and asked, How was it? Did you manage to meet the chairman of Majestic Corporation? Was it him? Saying that, she took a photo out. Though the photo was old, she could see a handsome-looking young man. Ads by Pub Future. Thea shook her head. I met him, but he was wearing a silver mask. I couldn't see his face. Sigh. Quincy sighed. I don't know why, but the chairman refused to see me. They told me the chairman would see me if I passed the interview. However, I still didn't get to meet him. What? You passed? Of course. Quincy wore a smug look. Don't you know who I am? I was the vice president of a large corporation overseas, and my annual salary was $30 million. The moment I returned to Kensington, many businesses were eager for me to join them. Even transgenerational groups sent me an offer letter. However, I wasn't interested. I only want to know if it was James who'd survived 10 years ago. Oh, yeah, who's this, by the way? Quincy glanced at James. Thea pulled at James and forced an awkward smile. This is my husband, James. Quincy crossed her arms and scrutinized James. Immediately, she frowned. Thea, he's not worthy of you. Quincy was the vice president of a large corporation overseas and had met countless people. With just a glimpse, she could see through the character of a person. She saw only plainness and idleness in him. Along with the rumors on the street, she knew immediately what kind of man James was. Meanwhile, James was staring at her. Goodness, how could there be such a coincidence? Quincy was his first love from 10 years ago. Although 10 years had passed and she did look very different, her features remained the same. James' brazen stare disgusted Quincy. Meanwhile, Thea smiled awkwardly. My husband is nice to me. Thea, are you dumb? Can niceness pay the bills? With your looks, you can definitely find a better man. Do you know Xavier Watson? We were in the same university overseas. We get along well. I'll introduce him to you in the future. Thea felt awkward. She had only just met Xavier yesterday. Meanwhile, Quincy continued blabbering. The Watsons are worth at least hundreds of billions. Besides, Xavier's a smart guy and is business savvy. He raked in a few $1 billion while he was overseas. If it weren't for me fixating on my first love, James, I wouldn't have introduced such a brilliant man to you. Upon bringing up James, she glanced at Thea's husband and said coldly, I heard your name is James too. You really sullied his good name. James awkwardly smiled. He remained silent in the face of his ex-girlfriend's relentless remarks. Meanwhile, Thea smiled. Quincy, you shouldn't let such a brilliant man go to waste. I'm married, after all. So, I won't be getting involved in this. James felt cheerful upon seeing Thea defend him against an outsider. Even if she had the one she had saved, the one who saved her, and the mysterious Mr. Caden in her heart, there was still a place for him. He found the whole thing amusing. He wondered who Thea would love more in the end. Would it be him or the other him? Quincy looked at James. She was not trying to look down on him. However, he was simply too ordinary. Someone of his caliber was not worthy of Thea. As her former best friend, she would never allow Thea to be restrained by such a worthless man. She also had her reasons for introducing Thea to Xavier. Xavier had been chasing her for a few years now. However, she had not accepted his courtship. Though he was an excellent man, she only had James on her mind. All this while, she believed James was still alive. She did not know that the man before her was her first love. After being badly burnt, James' appearance changed. Though his looks were restored, he now looked different. James, have some self-awareness. Think about it. How are you worthy of Thea? Let's do this. I'll give you $2 million as compensation for the divorce. As long as you manage your finances well, you won't have to worry about money for the rest of your life anymore. James chuckled. When did Quincy become this bossy? Why was an outsider like her interfering in their relationship? I'm sorry. I'd like to turn down the offer. $2 million are incomparable to Thea. Even if you gave me 200 billion, I wouldn't leave her. Ads by Pub Future. James brusquely rejected her offer. Meanwhile, Quincy chose to ignore him. She pulled at Thea. Thea, it's been so long. Let's hang out. Saying that, she grabbed Thea by the arm and walked toward a parking lot not too far away. Thea turned and waved to James. Go home. James did not chase after them. He watched Thea get into a luxury car. He scratched his nose and muttered, the Zylers are pretty rich, huh? 10 years ago, he was in a relationship with Quincy for half a year. Although he knew she was rich and would be driven around in a luxury car, he was not aware of how wealthy the Zylers were. James did not think much of it. After Thea left, he called for a taxi. Before he could get into the taxi, a jeep approached him. The windows rolled down. In the passenger seat, the Blight King waved at James. Where are you going? Need a ride? James thought about his offer. He could save a few dollars if someone was willing to bring him home. He got into the Blight King's car. Daniel was the one driving. Meanwhile, the Blight King got off from the passenger seat and went to the back to sit with James. He passed James a cigarette. James accepted it. The Blight King pulled out a lighter and lit James' cigarette. The Blight King was acting abnormally. James was puzzled. Normally, he would avoid him at all costs. What was going on today? Blight King, you must be up to something. What's with you today? The Blight King snickered. As expected of the Black Dragon. You see through everything. Indeed, I need your help with something. Smoking his cigarette, James said coldly, get straight to the point. The Blight King pulled out a classified document and handed it to James. James took it and looked at it. Immediately, he tossed it aside and said, what does this have to do with me? The Blight King replied, the higher-ups ordered me to build a special forces team. Candidates from all military regions and police forces will go through a screening process, and 10,000 among them will be chosen to undergo special training. Only those who pass the special training may join the special forces. James nodded. I've looked through the document, but what does this have to do with me? The document states that you're the person in charge. The Blight King smiled. Black Dragon, I've been cleaning up the mess you created all this while. Shouldn't you at least help me out here? James glanced at the Blight King and asked coldly, what do you want me to do? The Blight King immediately said, you are a legendary figure in the army worshipped by many. I plan to make you the chief instructor of the special training. James immediately lifted his hand and interrupted the Blight King. Forget it. I'm living as free as a bird. I'm not creating trouble for myself. The Blight King explained, you'll just be a figurehead. It'll certainly motivate those who are participating in the special training. If we announce that those who pass the special training will get to meet the Black Dragon, those guys will do their very best. There's no need for you to personally direct the training. You just have to make an appearance and give a motivational speech every once in a while. I see. James was deep in thought. After arriving in Kensington, the Blight King had been helping him out on many occasions. It was a two-way street. Fine, I'm in. Upon hearing this, the Blight King was delighted. With the Black Dragon participating, the mission would be a resounding success. Ads by Pub Future. Who was the Black Dragon? He was a commanding presence molded from the carnage of war. From a common soldier, he climbed his ranks by stepping on the corpses of his enemies. The Blight King had seen the Black Dragon's hand. He knew one could not stand against him in a fight. Black Dragon. There's one more thing. Cut to the chase. The Blight King pulled out another document and handed it to James. These are orders from the higher-ups. Have a look. James glimpsed through the document and frowned. Were you behind this? Henry's taking a temporary post at the Southern Plains. What does forming a special forces team within the country have to do with the Southern Plains? Why did you appoint him as an officer? The Blight King smiled. Since he's free, I might as well give him some chores. James said coldly, since the higher-ups have issued the document, why don't you go straight to Henry? What's the point of showing me this? The Blight King had an embarrassed look. Everyone knows your temperament. Even if the higher-ups gave their direct orders, you'd overrule the instructions if you disapproved of them. James thought about it and said, fine, I'll ask him. I'll allow him to train these recruits if he's fine with it. If he isn't, there's nothing I can do. Saying that, James put away the document and said, bring me to Common Clinic. The Blight King ordered, Daniel, you heard him. Roger that. Daniel started the engines and drove to Common Clinic. Soon, they arrived. Last night, Henry was terribly drunk. He had experienced a luxurious and pleasure-seeking life and was inebriated. He stayed the night at the nightclub and only returned this morning. Along the way, he bumped into a girl, and they had a misunderstanding. Now, the girl had followed him all the way to the Common Clinic. At the clinic, Henry looked at the red-haired, 20-year-old lady in a revealing dress before him helplessly. Miss, I told you it was all a misunderstanding. I bumped into you because I was zoned out. I wasn't trying to take advantage of you. Why are you being so persistent? The lady sat on a chair with her legs crossed. Sucking on a lollipop, she spoke absent-mindedly, I don't care about the reasons. Anyhow, since you bumped into me, you'll have to take responsibility. Coincidentally, I have no place to go at the moment, so I'll be staying at your place for the time being. I'll forgive you if you provide me with accommodation and free food for 3 months. Or else, I'm reporting you to the authorities for trying to molest me. Saying that, she stood up. Removing her dress, she pulled Henry's arm and pressed it against her breast. Hee, I have your fingerprints on me now. If you reject my offer, I'll call the cops. The lady spoke with a triumphant look on her face. Hey, Henry, you brought one back. A burst of obnoxious laughter came from the door. It was James who had just arrived. He chuckled upon witnessing the scene as he entered. Upon seeing James, Henry stood up immediately and hurriedly explained, James, it's not what you think it is. I don't even know her. I bumped into her on the road, and now she's harassing me. She's even forcing me to provide her accommodation and food for 3 months. Oh, James looked at the lady sitting on the chair. She was around 20 years of age. She had red hair and wore thick makeup and a revealing dress. He did not want to get involved. Smiling, he pulled out the document and tossed it at Henry. What's this, James? Have a look. Henry glimpsed through it. The lady sitting on the chair noticed a seal on the document. She recognized it, and she knew it was a classified document. Her curiosity was piqued. She did not expect to see a classified document in a small clinic. She stood up and asked inquisitively, what's that? She snatched the document from Henry's hands. Henry roared, what are you doing? Give it back. Ads by Pub Future. His fierce look and loud voice scared her out of her wits. He was being meek and polite just a moment ago. Why was he a completely different person now? Intimidated, she handed the document back to Henry and muttered, TSK, it's not like I care. Take it, then, if you so desperately need it. Henry's face brightened up a little upon receiving the document. After reading its contents, he frowned. What the hell? What does this have to do with me? Why me? James said, if you don't want to go, you can choose not to. I'll return the document. Henry contemplated and said, since this is an order from the higher-ups, I can't just ignore it. Since there's nothing much to do here at Kensington, I'll go and have a look. What do you mean by nothing to do here? Don't you have a marriage to consider? James patted Henry's back and said, take this opportunity and find a wife. She'll give birth to a healthy baby in no time. By the way, who's this lady over here? Did you bring her back last night? I'm warning you. Don't get serious with a woman like her. You should find a more principled woman as your wife. Whitney was indignant. With her hands on her hips, she rebuked him, who are you calling an unprincipled woman? I'm not unprincipled. You are. Henry immediately assured James, James, ignore this mad woman. James did not waste his breath arguing with Whitney. Since you've agreed, come with me to see the Blight King. Once you've handpicked 10,000 men, you're free to leave. James turned to leave. Whitney fixed her gaze on Henry. A classified document. The Blight King. 10,000 men. She rubbed her chin and muttered, "Who are they? How did they manage to get their hands on a classified document? And they're acquainted with the Blight King. Are they some big shots?" Her face brightened up. She did not expect to bump into some big shot in the military. She hugged Henry's arm and asked, "Hey, you're Henry, aren't you? Who exactly are you, Mr. Henry?" "Hands off." Henry removed her hands from him and made his way out. A jeep was parked outside Common Clinic. The Blight King was in the car. He was waiting for James' response and had not yet left. Soon, James walked out and tossed him the document. "He's in. He'll be the head instructor. However, he won't be answering to you." Hearing this, the Blight King was delighted. "That's great. I'll immediately give the order. From today onward, candidates will be chosen from all military regions for the formation of a special forces team." He knew what James and Henry were capable of. They were battle-hardened warriors. Men who went through their training would be excellent fighters. Henry walked out. Glancing at the Blight King, he said with a smile, "I'll go. However, I'm not transferring to another post. I'm just there to help you out. Let's get this straight. If I wish to leave anytime, I will do so. Don't think of making the higher-ups pressure me into submission. Of course, you may leave anytime you wish. I won't stop you." The Blight King flashed a bright smile. It was already a great honor to have their support. He was not hoping for them to stay indefinitely. Whitney walked out and stood by the door. Upon seeing the middle-aged man in the car, she froze. Was that not the Blight King? Henry really was acquainted with the Blight King. He was even talking to him with a smile on his face. The Blight King did not stay for long. He instructed Daniel, "Return at once." "Hey, wait." James opened the car door. "Give me a ride home." Saying that, he called out to Henry, "Henry, don't fool around too much when I'm not around." Henry blushed. He had been fooling around last night. He was drunk and did not know how many women he had slept with. In any case, he had slept with many. Recalling the scene, adrenaline pumped through his veins. Only after the Blight King's car disappeared from view did he recollect himself. He took a deep breath and muttered silently, "I shouldn't be fooling around anymore." He turned. As he turned, he got a fright. Looking at Whitney behind him, he rebuked her, "Are you trying to scare me? At least make some sounds when you walk." Biting her finger, Whitney stared at Henry and asked, "Henry, who exactly are you?" "Ads by Pub Future." Henry ignored her. He dashed into the clinic and slammed the door shut. Whitney chased after him and kicked the door. "Henry, open the door. I'm warning you. Don't even think of shaking me off." Thea was hanging out with Quincy in the mall. Quincy was brainwashing Thea to divorce her husband the entire time. She described James as a good-for-nothing man, useless, unkempt, and unambitious. On the other hand, she kept praising Xavier as a corporate genius and a wizard of finance. Thea was absent-minded the whole afternoon. After meeting the mysterious Mr. Caden, the image of the handsome man in a spotless white suit stuck in her mind all day. His charisma and the way he spoke were irresistible to her. In particular, his decisive, assertive, and unquestionable tone had won her over entirely. She could not help but compare her husband to the mysterious Mr. Caden. The more she compared them, the more ordinary her husband, James, seemed. She could not pinpoint a single strength in him. She wavered. She thought about divorcing James. However, she immediately dismissed the idea. She remembered the care and warmth James had shown her. "Quincy, please stop. I know Mr. Watson is a distinguished and successful man, but I'm living a happy life now. I don't care what anyone thinks of James or how unambitious he is. As long as he treats me well, that's enough." Sigh. Quincy sighed. "Thea, you are too soft. I heard he treated your injuries, but that isn't love. Just give him some money and treat it as a medical expense. I can see you don't have feelings for him." Huh. Thea looked at Quincy. Quincy continued, "When you two met just now, I saw you weren't holding his hand. Those aren't feelings of love you are feeling, but gratitude. Listen to me. Give him some money and send him away. If you're short on cash, I can lend you some." Thea was feeling disoriented. Was it not love? Was it really just gratitude? Thinking about the time she spent with James did not cause her heart to thump or her adrenaline to pump. However, Those things did happen when she saw the mysterious Mr. Caden. Her heart raced, and adrenaline pumped through her veins. She felt nervous and was at a loss. Were these not feelings of affection, as written in the books? At that moment, Tia, too, felt she was not in love with James. She felt no love for him, only gratitude. She was thankful to him for treating her injuries. Sigh. She sighed deeply and shook off the thoughts from her mind. Quincy, thank you. I'll think about what you said. James returned to the Callahans. However, no one was home. Everyone had gone to Goodview Villa district. As James had left hurriedly earlier this morning, he had forgotten his keys. He wanted to call Tia, but he dismissed the idea immediately. He sat by the stairs outside the door and smoked his cigarettes. He pulled his phone out and played Plant vs. Zombies to pass time. Soon, it was noon. Before the rest of the Callahans came back, Tia returned. She saw James sitting by the stairs the moment she got off the elevator. She frowned and questioned, "Why are you sitting here?" Hearing her voice, James hurriedly stood. Putting away his phone, he smiled. "I forgot my keys, darling. No one's home, so I waited here." Tia glanced at James and said nothing. She turned toward the door. Then, she pulled out her keys and unlocked the door. James followed her in. "Have you eaten, honey? Should I cook something?" Ads by Pub Future. "I've already eaten, but go and cook something up anyway. Otherwise, my mom's going to chew you out again. I'm going to take a nap and will be heading to Pacific Group later this afternoon. Don't interrupt my nap." Saying that, she turned to leave. She did not sleep well last night. After a hectic morning, she was completely exhausted. James looked at Tia entering her room. He could feel her apathy toward him. Sigh. He sighed. He had wanted to cheer Tia up by sending her gifts. He did not expect things to get out of hand. Since things had come to this, he would let fate take its course. Their marriage was not established on a deep emotional basis anyway. Even if Tia had fallen for another man, be it the other him, it would not be such a terrible ending. He went to the kitchen and contemplated while cooking. He was contemplating whether he should give up on being the son-in-law of the Callahans and approach Tia as the mysterious Mr. Caden. The more he thought about it, the more complicated things all seemed. Relationships were much more complex than killing enemies on the battlefield. Soon, the Callahans returned. "Mom, the villa is unbelievably luxurious. It's far better than the Clahans villa. Mom, when are we moving in?" James could hear David's excited voice coming from the living room. Alyssa exclaimed, "All my life, I've never seen such a luxurious villa. Let's move in ASAP. I want the room by the door on the second floor. The balcony's simply too big." Carrying the dishes in his hands, James walked out of the kitchen and said, "Time to eat." Upon seeing James, Gladys' good mood was instantly ruined. She stood up and reproached him. "How shameless of you, James. Why have you not left yet? Do you need me to escort you out with a broom?" "Mom." James had a helpless look on his face. "Don't call me that. I don't have such an incapable son-in-law like you. I am telling you, you have to divorce Tia today. I'm moving into the villa to enjoy my life." David walked over to him and pleaded, "James, I'm begging you, divorce Tia. I don't want to have such a useless brother-in-law like you. You can't give me luxurious cars, villas, and the life I want." James scratched his nose in frustration. Did they not just want money? He had plenty. They just did not believe him. The commotion in the living room prevented Tia from taking a good nap. Wearing a surly expression, she walked out of the room and said coldly, "Mr. Caden has told me those are tokens of gratitude for saving his life and not betrothal gifts. Feel free to move into the villa. Just don't bring up the issue of divorce anymore." James looked at Tia appreciatively. Tia returned the gaze. Although she said nothing, disappointment was apparent on her face. All women loved wealthy and successful men, not unambitious men who stayed at home and tended to household chores. "I'm going to Pacific Group." She turned to leave. Her expression did not escape James' notice. He saw the disappointment on her face. It seemed that after meeting the mysterious Mr. Caden, Tia's opinion of him had unconsciously changed. Meanwhile, the Callahans were worked up upon hearing that they were allowed to move into the villa. They gathered to discuss an auspicious day to move in. James, on the other hand, was forgotten. Not that he cared. Sitting on the balcony, he smoked his cigarettes and contemplated life. Not long after Thea left, Lex came knocking on the door. Ads by Pub Future. The Callahans utilized all resources at their disposal to get Howard and Tommy out of prison, but to no avail. As it was James who had called the police, Wyatt explained that James' approval was needed for them to be released. No one else could do the trick. Thus, Lex came personally. The Callahans did not give him a good look. After all, they were now detached from the main family and would be moving into a villa. There was simply no need to play nice with him anymore. Father, why are you here? On the sofa in the living room, Gladys wore an indifferent expression. She was dismissive of Lex even though he was the family's patriarch. Lex looked at James and ordered, James, withdraw the case immediately. Release Tommy and Howard now. Unconcerned, James casually said, Grandpa, they'll have to face justice for what they've done. They'll repeat the same mistake if we let them off the hook so easily. You be starved. It's not in your place to decide. Lex was enraged. Gladys looked at James and said, all right now, James. Withdraw the case. We're family, after all. It's better not to burn bridges. James relented. However, as he did not have White's number, he could only call Daniel. He gave Daniel a call immediately. I'm withdrawing the case concerning the Callahans. Saying that, he hung up. Lex grunted coldly. Then, he stood up to leave. Watch your step, father. Gladys ostentatiously called out. This feels good. David laughed carefreely. Although James is poor, he did something right this time. Tommy best think twice before taunting me again. I agree. Gladys nodded. James was right to call the police and prove Thea's innocence. However, that was it. He could only call the police. If this were the mysterious Mr. Caden or Mr. Watson, they would not even have to call the police. They would settle things on their own. James, the divorce is still on the table. You're not getting out of this just because you helped her. I am telling you, you have to divorce her. Deep in thought, she muttered silently, things don't seem too good with the mysterious Mr. Caden anymore. It seems I'll have to target Mr. Watson now. I should call him and invite him out for a meal. She did just that. Hi, Mr. Watson. I am Thea Callahan's mother. Yes, that's me. Are you free tonight? Thea would like to treat you to a meal. Alright then, I got it. We'll meet there. Hanging up the call, Gladys had a brilliant smile on her face. It was almost as if Xavier was already her son-in-law. Xavier. James squinted his eyes. It seemed he had to teach him a lesson. Xavier would have a death wish for thinking about his wife. Gladys could not contain her excitement after asking Xavier out. James, on the other hand, went out of the house. His departure was not noticed by anyone. That was because the Callahans were not concerned about him. The Watsons. Leaving the house, James muttered to himself. He knew of the Watsons. Though it was a family that kept a low profile, its true power and influence could not be further from the truth. The Watsons were one of the representatives of the Five Provinces Business Alliance, which constructed the transgenerational new city. The Five Provinces Business Alliance intended to build the transgenerational new city as a world-class financial center. That way, their reputation and prestige would further rise. Unexpectedly, James took an interest in the transgenerational new city. Through some backdoor means, he bought the place at the lowest price available. He pulled his phone out and called Jacob Lynch, the president of the Five Provinces Business Alliance. Henry had given him Jacob's number. Though he had his number, he had never seen him in person. Jacob, it's me, the Black Dragon. Receiving James' call, Jacob was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly said, Gee General, can I help you with anything? Ads by Pub Future. Where's the Watson residence? Jacob froze. Why would the Black Dragon of the Southern Plains demand to know the location of the Watson residence? Although he could not figure out James' intention, he spilled the beans and told him everything. Tell Gavin Watson I'll be visiting. Instruct him to come out and welcome me. Yes, of course. I'll see to it immediately. Jacob was relieved. James was not here to make trouble but to pay a visit. He knew it was the Black Dragon who bought the transgenerational new city. Now that the Black Dragon was paying a visit to the Watsons, it would mean that the Watsons were currying favor with him. It would also mean that the Five Provinces Business Alliance was cozying up to him. It would be beneficial to the development of the alliance. The Watson residence was located in Goodview Villa district. James called a taxi and headed there immediately. In a luxurious villa in Goodview Villa district, Gavin, upon receiving news from Jacob, sprang up from his sofa in excitement. "What's going on, Dad? What made you so happy?" Xavier descended from the second floor. Gavin exclaimed, "Why, Jacob just called me. He said that the Black Dragon General of the Southern Plains will be here to visit us." Xavier was intrigued. "Do you mean the Black Dragon who forcefully bought the transgenerational new city constructed by the Five Provinces Business Alliance through backdoor means?" "Yes, that Black Dragon." Gavin took a deep breath. He never thought he would witness the renowned Black Dragon in his lifetime. "Hurry, let's go and welcome him at the gates." Gavin pulled Xavier by the arm and dragged him along. James arrived at Goodview Villa district. Arriving at the gates, he saw many people there. Gavin stood at the very front with Xavier close behind him. Zack, who had beaten up Lex and the others, was present too. The trio stood at the entrance and waited for the Black Dragon's arrival. At that moment, a taxi appeared at the entrance of the villa. James pulled out a $100 bill and handed it to the driver. "Keep the change." Saying that, he got off the car. Upon seeing James in casual wear getting off the car, everyone at the entrance was momentarily stunned. He's the Black Dragon. There should be an army escorting him here. Why would he come by taxi? He can't be. He's probably just a passerby. Gavin and Zack conversed in whispers. Upon seeing James, Xavier frowned. Was this not the son-in-law of the Callahans? Under countless gazes, James lit a cigarette and took his time walking toward them. He stopped before Gavin and nodded at him. "You have a good attitude. We'll speak at my place in the House of Royals." Saying that, he turned to leave. Gavin froze. Was he really the Black Dragon? Back then, he had gone to Lex's birthday banquet. However, James was not there. As such, he did not know James was the Clahan's son-in-law. However, upon hearing about the House of Royals, he was now sure that James was the Black Dragon. "Yes." Gavin nodded and followed close behind. Xavier pulled at him and whispered, "What are you doing, Dad?" "He's not the Black Dragon. He's the Clahan's son-in-law." "Huh, son-in-law, the Callahans." Gavin frowned. Immediately, he remembered something. His face darkened, and he exclaimed, "Hurry and get moving. He's the Black Dragon." Gavin was puzzled during the incident at Lex's birthday banquet. Lex was permitted to organize his birthday banquet at the House of Royals. So, how and why did such a disaster occur? Why did Scarlet Brooks show up? Why did the Blight King send his men? They were acting on the Black Dragon's orders. He hurriedly caught up with James. Xavier was puzzled. Is he really the Black Dragon? With a doubtful look, he followed behind them. Soon, they arrived at the House of Royals. James pressed his palm against the palmprint recognition lock. The metal door of the villa opened, and he walked in. Ads by Pub Future. Seeing this, Xavier turned pale. James sat on a sofa and crossed his legs. He looked at Gavin mischievously. "Gavin, do you know why I came to visit you?" Though Gavin's forehead was beaded with sweat, he dare not wipe them off. He shook his head furiously. I don't know." James glanced at Xavier. "Do you, then?" Meeting his gaze, Xavier shivered. James exuded an extremely powerful aura. Though Xavier was a successful businessman who had met countless people, he was fearful of James. The sensation was akin to facing off against a ferocious tiger. Recalling what he did at the Callahans, his heart skipped a beat. Kinda. Xavier, the commercial genius, was sweating profusely. Smack. James slammed his fist against the table. Gavin trembled in fear and immediately knelt on the floor. Though Xavier was equally fearful, he managed to contain the urge to kneel. James stared coldly at Xavier and said, "You seem to be interested in my wife. Do you wish for the Watsons to be wiped off the face of Kensington just like the Xaviers?" "You be-starred." Gavin, who was kneeling on the ground, roared. He dragged the dumbfounded Xavier to the floor and ordered, "Kneel and apologize." Xavier regained his sense and knelt. "Gee, General, I didn't know." I won't do that ever again. Please, give me a chance. James lightly waved. All right now, get up. Upon hearing this, they hurriedly stood as if pardoned. Zack, who was standing by the side, finally understood how Lex came to organize his birthday banquet at the House of Royals. After all, the owner of the House of Royals, the Black Dragon, was the son-in-law of the Callahans. Fortunately, Gavin had brought him to the Callahans to admit his mistake. Otherwise, if the Black Dragon had intended to pursue matters further, his family would be doomed. Xavier, I heard my mother's treating you to a meal tonight on behalf of Thea. Ah, Xavier nodded. Then, immediately after, he shook his head. And no, James smiled. Don't be nervous. Taking an interest in my wife can only mean she's a fine woman. It's fortunate you only sent gifts to the Callahans instead of resorting to other means. Your act has saved the Watsons. Xavier took a deep breath. Looking back on it, he could not help but shudder. Fortunately, he did not act rashly. Otherwise, the Watsons would have been doomed. It was a simple matter for a general to crush a family. All he needed was to utter a single order. All right now, you're dismissed. James lightly waved. They swiftly left. Gavin wiped the sweat beads off his forehead. He glanced at Xavier. You almost doomed us all. I didn't know, Dad. How would I know that the Clahan's son-in-law was the Black Dragon? Gavin took a deep breath and said, back then, when James was driving in and out of the military region freely, there were rumors that he had borrowed the vehicle through his connections. I never expected it to be his car. I don't understand one thing, though. Although he's a big shot, he married into the Callahans and feigned a good-for-nothing man. After resolving his business with Xavier, James left the House of Royals and headed to the Callahans. He stayed at home the whole afternoon. Meanwhile, Gladys and the others had gone to the bank to deposit the money. Thea had gone to Pacific Group. As she had just taken over Pacific Group, she had a lot of matters to attend to. As such, she had to stay there past 6 in the evening. As Gladys had made an appointment with Xavier, she got worried upon seeing Thea being occupied with work. She gave her a call and demanded she returned home immediately. Thea thought something had happened and hurriedly made her way home. Thea, change into something glamorous. Put on some makeup and wear some jewelry. Thea was puzzled. Mom, what are you up to this time? Gladys smiled. You've got a dinner date with Xavier. Stop dilly-dallying. Xavier's a busy man. Now that he's made time to have a meal with us, we should make haste. Thea's face immediately darkened. I'm not going. You go ahead. Gladys put her hands on her hips and scolded Thea. Are you defying my orders now, Thea Callahan? Who took care of you for the past 10 years? Do you know how much I was ridiculed and made fun of because of you? Because of you, I couldn't hold my head high in the Hills family. Great. Now that you're beautiful, have you grown defiant? Sob. Why is my life so miserable? Gladys started throwing a tantrum. If you don't come, I'll leap off the 8th floor. There's no point in living anymore. Ads by Pub Future. Saying that, she opened the window and prepared to jump. Benjamin grabbed her in time and looked at Thea. Thea, how could you disobey your mother for someone like James? David chimed in, that's right, Thea. Is James really worth it? The entire family was trying to convince Thea. Thea's eyes were brimming with tears. Why was her life so miserable? She looked at James. Her aggrieved look broke James' heart. Thea, why not have a meal with Mr. Watson? I'll go as well. Are you dumb? Thea scolded him. What are you thinking? Why would you allow your wife to dine with other men? And you are even thinking of coming along. Are you not aware of your status? If you go, you'll be ridiculed and belittled. Even if you aren't ashamed, I am. James did not expect her to have such a huge reaction. After all, he had dealt with everything. Xavier would not dare go after his wife anymore. Not only that, Xavier would make it clear that he would no longer pester Thea. Thea felt disheartened upon seeing James' nonchalant look. If James had been more capable and ambitious, her mother would not have tried searching for another man for her. Seeing the expression on her mother's face, Thea pleaded, knock it off, Mom. I'm going. Gladys stopped making a scene and immediately instructed, then, what are you standing there for? Get moving. Crestfallen, Thea went to her room and got dressed. James, on the other hand, sat on the sofa in silence. Soon, Thea changed into a tailor-made dress. Then, they went to the Gaumont. Xavier had booked the diamond room at the Gaumont. It was the most luxurious room. He did not want to show up after finding out James' identity. However, since James demanded he came, he had no other choice. He had been waiting since 5 o'clock. He waited for 2 hours. Thea and her family arrived at 7. Following the lead of the waiter, Thea and the others entered the diamond room. For the past 2 hours, Xavier was restless. He only regained his senses when someone entered the room. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, he swiftly stood up and greeted Ems. Thea, you're here. Hello to you too, Gladys and Benjamin. Upon seeing James, who came in last, he felt shivers down his spine. As they say, the basis of social relationships was reciprocity. Seeing how friendly Xavier was, Thea stopped wearing the surly expression on her face. She smiled at him and greeted, "Sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Xavier." "Ah, it's fine. I only just arrived myself." "Ems, Thea, please have a sit." Xavier invited them to take their seats. It can be continued. And like, share and subscribe for more interesting content.